Hey everyone, welcome back to our live weekly Support Ops Hangout. I'm your host, Chase Clements. Carolyn is out backpacking Europe or some nonsense like that. No offense to our European listeners. And in her place, we've got a very special guest. We're going to say hello to the other two gents first, though. So Jeff, and seriously, you need to watch the YouTube version, if nothing else, just to see his jacket that he took off, which I'm kind of sad he took off. But he did have this great weather jacket, I guess. I don't know what you would call that. Rain jacket?
Yeah, let's go with rain jacket. Does it not rain where you are, Chase? You've never needed a rain jacket before?
I don't think you've been in the South in the summer. It's like 98 degrees outside and just sun.
Sounds delightful.
It is inside or in the shade. Something like that. Then we got Chase Livingston from over at Automatic, who I got to admit, like, Jeff brings a lot of, like, what's he going to do this week kind of thing. Chase is consistent week to week, and I love it.
I'm a creature of habit.
He's on time, he's friendly, and he's always got a new gadget.
That's right.
What more could you want from one of our guests? I mean, come on.
I fit right in here.
Oh, and then, like I mentioned, so we've got Dana Potter from Customer I/O, and you've all seen her on the show before, and again, seriously, you should watch the YouTube just so you can see some of our backgrounds, because she has a great, like, rain gutter right next to her.
The wonders of working from home. You get to work next to rain gutters, but outside, so hey.
See, again, what more could you want? It's perfect. So this is our crew for the show, and we're going to tackle one that I've been putting off for a while just because it was one of those where, I don't know, I guess at some point it kind of feels like sometimes you're the only company that does this. But so we're talking about how a team gets to decide which bugs they're actually going to fix and which ones they're going to leave alone. Your app, just like our app, just like any other app out there, has got to have some nasty little bug that only affects like one person out of like a million people, and even though you've tried, you can't figure out what's going on. So we're going to talk about that kind of cutoff where bugs go from, yes, this is something we are going to fix, to no, this is something we're just going to leave alone, and how to decide where the cutoff is, how to handle that with your customers, and all that kind of fun stuff. So, Dana, let's start with you since you're our guest and are always great for kicking things off. At what point do you look at your fellow Customer I/O folks and say, you know, this is something that needs to be fixed? This is a bug that's been broken, and we've got to get a fix for it now.
First, I just want to say I find it hilarious that you've been putting off talking about putting off fixing bugs.
Yep.
The irony is not lost on us here.
But next, so like deciding on when to fix bugs. I mean, first, like, if it's something that's affecting lots of people, that just needs to get fixed. But when it's those like lingering ones that have just been there for ages, that one gets tricky. If you get more reports, like anytime someone reports that something's broken, I track it. Mm-hmm. So like, you know, if just one person reported it and you think, okay, you know, that's kind of minor, if you don't track it, then you don't know when the second person reports it, or the 14th, or the 20th. So when you kind of see it start adding up, that's when I get to the point of, okay, you know what, 20 people have now reported this. It might have been minor the first time, but now it's kind of starting to get annoying. The other time is when that one person becomes a squeaky wheel. Sometimes, even if it's just kind of minor, but that person is absolutely driving you batty, I may use a little bit of bribery. If it's not that big of a deal to fix it, I will beg the developers to fix it. That's my big thing. If it's like a huge deal, I will find a way to make the customer go away. But if they, you know, if it's like a minor thing that's not that big a deal to fix, a squeaky wheel will get me to fix it.
I love it. Too many people are squeaky wheel. Like, pick which one you want. So, looking at the numbers game, is there a magic number? Is there, you know, like you mentioned, like 20 people? 20 people have reported it now, so we need to fix it, or is that like a higher number, or is there even a magic number like that?
I don't think there's a magic number. At companies I've worked at before, the magic number was like 10 or 20. For me, it's more like the number over time. So, you know, like we've got bugs that we have, say, 6 reports of over time. And 6 is enough because it's 6 in like a month. Whereas if it's 6 over 2 years, that's not enough. So I don't think there's a magic number for me now, but I don't think our customer base is big enough to have that magic number. It's more, I guess it goes by feel, and it goes by how difficult it is. You know, if it's minor, if it's like a browser specific thing, I'm probably never going to push for someone to fix it.
Yeah, because let's be honest, as soon as you fix it, Chrome's going to like do something else and
Yeah.
just screw it up again. So
Chrome or Firefox or Safari, I mean, they update weekly. And let's be honest, all I have to do is just stall for a week, and it'll probably fix itself.
So speaking of customer base, Livingston, you're the one that works for the company that runs like 23% of the web. So your customer base
24% now.
Oh, I'm sorry, 24%, 24% now. Which I really feel like that should be on your business cards. Like we run 24% of the web. Anyway, so massive customer base here. What level do you need to reach before you tell like your happiness engineers, hey, we need to take a closer look at this?
It's kind of, I guess, for us, and from what I've seen, it's all relative. So, if there's a bug that's affecting lots and lots of users, we obviously try to track each report we get of that bug, and so when it, reaches a decent, number, I think 10 to 20 is probably a good baseline when you start knowing that that's a decent subset, and like, you don't want. If 20 of your users have reported it, then how many more out there have just dealt with it and not actually, sending a ticket or a live chat or something like that to let you know that it's broken or it's annoying or whatever the problem may be. So I think that's a good baseline to start with for prioritizing, bugs. And obviously if something's getting reported hundreds of times or something like that, then, we know we need to take a look at it like ASAP. Because that's probably a pretty major issue. So, for us, we try to prioritize based on how many times it's reported, how serious, the issue is. If it's just affecting one particular browser, maybe we'll put that off a little longer if we can and work on fixing some other more important things. Obviously, if there's a security issue or something like that, we're going to get that fixed, immediately, basically. So it kind of all just depends on the severity of the bug and how many reports we've gotten. Similar to what Diana was saying, we try to track each report we get, and then each time we do a release, the developers usually do a sweep of all the bugs that we're tracking to see if there are any quick wins or anything that we could slip into that release or something like that would be beneficial for our users.
Yeah, so Jeff, Chase brought up a good point here about a bug being broken versus being annoying, for instance. As you're in your spiffy new product manager role, as you're thinking about this kind of stuff, is that something that kind of plays into how much priority you do put on a bug? I mean, if it's just broken versus like, well, it's technically working, it's just kind of annoying. Like, how does that factor into if you are going to ask the team to take a look at that one?
So we have two. I don't know exactly what the annoying versus broken means, but we have two. The way that we look at it is two categorizations. One is like a technical fix, so that's like something's broken, like you click a button and it doesn't work. And the other is a little bit more of an experience issue. So like, I don't know, the way that this thing works is confusing, or I entered a comma delimited list rather than space delimited, and now the whole thing breaks, but everybody uses space delimited lists. Just a weird example. And those, the second kind, the experience ones, tend to be a lot less like, here's the bug, we just need to fix the bug, and we think about it a lot more like, we need to rework this part of the product to work better. Mm-hmm. Right? Like this isn't just this isn't just like a write code type of thing. It's also like a think about it. Architecture, how that part of the product works situation. So in that case, we would probably review how core is it, right? So are we talking like super user feature, or are we talking like something that would be preventing people from getting full value on their first login? And then even outside of that, like if it's a super user issue, is it something that people are using all the time, or is it people that people are only using it on a weekly or a yearly basis, and what we really should think about doing is just removing it. So all of that, I guess, all the way from what Chase was saying about we just got 20 reports in the last hour, we should probably fix this, all the way down to someone just mentioned this, I've never heard of it before, is this even worth thinking about? Are all things that we try to have a conversation about. Yeah, I'll just end there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good spot to kind of end it. So I mean, yeah, we've wrapped up the show. Good job. We nicely done on everybody's part. So one of the things that I find really interesting with the conversation is, a lot of times, so the customer reports the bug or whatever is going on to support, and support has to make a decision. And okay, so the team has to make a decision at that point to either just kind of say, like you said, it's one person, we're not really going to worry about it, it's a just weird perfect storm of things going on, versus there are lots of people now reporting this. So Dana, when it comes to the latter case, so lots of people are reporting the bug, you've decided to escalate it up to somebody on the dev team. Kind of walk us through what happens at that point. Is it as simple as you just tell them this is what you're seeing? I guess the question I'm looking for is, what have you found is the best way to frame a bug to get them to actually fix it?
It depends on what the exact type of bug is. I mean, are we talking this huge part of the software suddenly not working, so maybe it was related to code that they just released? Or are we talking, maybe a bunch of people just found something that was released like weeks ago, but it takes like, you have to do this, then this, then this sort of stuff.
Yeah, let's go with the latter one. Let's go like it's a bug that's only going to happen on like the 3rd of the month if you're using Opera with a specific extension and, something really random.
In that case, what I would do is go through, like, make sure I replicate it, understand what's going on, write up a bug report that says these are the exact steps that you have to take to do it. When you're taking these steps, this is what I would expect to have happened, which is, this is the ideal. When you do this, it should have allowed you to, say, create a campaign. And instead, it's causing this really funky error. And, if I can, I'll try and get, like, the error code. I'll go to our bug tracking software. We use, like, Bugsnag, and I'll try and get, this is what's being triggered in our logs. And I'll give that, and maybe I'll do, like, a little screencast that I'll just show, like, this is what I do. This is what just happened. Because the more information I can get in terms of, like, steps taken, expected result, actual result, I'll write all of that up as a bug report. And I'll give that to our developers. If it's more like, we've gotten 5 mentions in the last week, but it's a full moon and maybe, this is somehow full moon related, I'll give that to our developers and I'll say this is kind of high priority, but it's not a drop everything that you're doing priority, and they'll get that scheduled, and I'll tell those customers, we're working on this, I don't have an ETA, everything, and I'll work with them to figure out when they're going to be able to get it developed. If it's, say, it's going to happen every single Monday until they fix it, then maybe we'll try and get it fixed by Friday so it doesn't happen again on Monday, and I'll get back to everybody. But the big thing is just like getting those steps to replicate, writing up exactly what it's going to take. If it's only in Opera and I can verify that, I've tested this in Chrome and Firefox and Safari and it doesn't cause problems there. And it's a matter of like knowing exactly what's going to happen, giving the most amount of information and talking to the development team, not just slapping a bug report in our system, because if I deem it enough of a priority that they should look at it sooner rather than later, I'll go talk to someone.
So what happens when you deem it a priority, but the programmer looks at it and goes, I just really can't fit this in, and it's not that big a deal, and kicks it back to you and says, no, this is something we're not going to work on right now?
I am incredibly spoiled. If I deem something as a priority, they look at it. Mostly because I don't deem that many things as a priority. So there aren't too many things that are kicked back. Generally, once or twice things are kicked back, and it's more, hey, here's this workaround that you might not have known about. Can you talk to the customers about that? And we'll look at a fix for this in a week or two, but it's incredibly complicated for us to fix. That's the kind of stuff that I get kicked back. I generally don't get stuff kicked back of, we're not going to fix this, unless it's, hey, we didn't tell you, but we're end-of-lifing this feature in a week. And then it's generally more a conversation of, what now? Yeah, I'm spoiled that stuff doesn't come up.
See, that's what happens in small companies. You get spoiled. So with the bigger one, with Livingston over WordPress and all, what happens in your case? Same question. What happens when you get one that you think is important, but the Jetpack devs, for whatever reason, have decided not to take that bug and fix it?
Yeah, I mean that happens sometimes, and so a lot of times it's just we'll have to tell the users that it's either we try not to say it's not a priority, but that it's going to take some time for our developers to look into it and fix it, and so they may not get a fix in the next release. It might be a couple of releases down the road or something like that, and I guess we have the added advantage since we're open source and all of our development and issues and stuff are tracked on GitHub publicly, so we can actually point the user to the GitHub issue or whatever, and they could subscribe to it and follow along with any comments or activity that's posted there. So that way, when something's fixed, or even when somebody starts to work on it, they may add some labels or comment, and that'll kind of give the user a better idea of maybe when it's gonna get released or get fixed, or at least get some eyes on it.
Yeah, Jeff. So looking at Wistia, a similar question over to you. When your team decides not to fix a bug, for whatever reason, maybe it's not enough people, or maybe it only affects a certain combination, whatever the reason, how do you decide how to communicate to your team and to your customers why you're not going to fix that?
So our workflow for tracking these bugs, so going back to what I was saying before, either the technical kind or more of what we call the experience kind, the product kind, is in GitHub. So we open a new issue, we outline the issue, how you can reproduce it, all of that kind of stuff. And then the reason why we do it there is not only could you link it to work that's being actively done, right? So a lot of times it's like, oh, this bug will be completely obliterated by the work we're already doing with this other project. But also, in the case that there might be some conversation about whether we should fix it or not, right? So someone might say, do you have a sense for how often this is coming up, right? Or could you include a couple more conversations so I can get better context for what people are struggling with? Or even, this is a will not fix because we have this other project going on that's going to obviate that, or like what Diana was saying about we're actually not going to be supporting this feature for that much longer, or whatever. And for the most part, I'm just thinking, I think for the most part we talk in customer-facing language there, right? So we would never say this person is a real problem, we need to fix this for this person or whatever. It's more like does it make sense to fix this, being that we're going to be fixing it sort of automatically here, maybe not, or we've run this to ground, this is related to Safari, we could do a ton of work on our end to get around it, but we would just be adding complication to the product, so we won't do it. So the reason why that's valuable is the customer champion, right, the support person who created the ticket originally, can take that explanation back to the customer, and we don't, advocate for them to run any kind of interference or cover that up. We prefer honesty. So saying something like, at this point, we're not planning to fix this because it's definitely a browser bug, and we think they're going to fix it in their next release, or we're thinking about fixing this, but right now it's not a high traffic enough bug, right, to make it valuable to invest time in, and sort of communicating how that trade-off works, I think makes for a better informed customer. So by and large, that would be the approach.
Yeah. So for ones that I was trying to think. So the Safari example that you gave, for whatever reason the bug only affects Safari in certain circumstances, and it's just not something you want to add the complexity to just to fix that one little thing. Is that going to be handled, are you going to add anything to the help docs or anything for something like that, or is it literally just case by case, just let the customer know whenever they email in?
That's a good question. So let me give you an example. Firefox a long time ago got duped by Google into not supporting a video file format called MP4, H.264.
And now we just lost all of our Firefox listeners. Good job.
They got duped pretty hard. Google was like, we're creating this new one called WebM. It's going to be for the whole open web. There's not going to be any issues around it. You should totally use WebM. And then Google was also like, you know what, we're still going to support this other one that we told you we weren't going to support. So then Chrome had no issues. It could play back everything all the time, and Firefox was stuck with Flash-only playback for the most popular file types. We never made a note about the fact that if you were on a like a computer with no Flash installed, that Firefox just wouldn't play back your video. Whether that's good or bad, we never made a note about it. It would come up occasionally. We would handle it case by case. This was for like 4 years. So no, I guess we probably wouldn't make a note about it. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, that would kind of be a weird page to have. Be like, here's a list of all of our known bugs, and yeah, that's them. There they are.
Yeah, it would be useful. Like I think Buffer has, and maybe Automatic does too. But Buffer has like that Trello board full of bugs. But like they have that because it shows the progress that they're making against them. But they're, especially at the browser level, it's like, well, we're not making any progress against this, so maybe we shouldn't broadcast the fact that we're not making any progress against it. It would probably just serve to infuriate that like one person that is being affected by it.
That one person running Firefox with no Flash or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So Diana, I mean, I've heard many a heated, passionate argument from you about rather than documenting things like that and fixing, to actually just fix it, to go into the app and fix whatever's going on. So how does Customer I/O, how do you handle when you know you're not going to fix something, but it's still going to be a problem from customers? Is it just case by case when they email in?
Yeah, it's case by case. It depends on the situation. I mean, if it's a browser bug, we're pretty honest with people that we're just not going to fix it and it's their browser. If it's a problem in our software, we should just fix it. And that's kind of my thing. I'm not really a big fan of documenting, hi, our software is confusing. Here's this bug. We're not going to fix it, but this is what you should do instead. And yeah, I can get up on a soapbox on that, obviously, since you brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things where, so with Basecamp, I was trying to think of a similar example, and yeah, we were kind of locked in. So when, I think it was when Yosemite first came out, whenever the new pages came out, Apple Pages came out, they changed the file format. Instead of saving it as like an actual file, they changed it and saved it as like this weird file folder that masqueraded as a file. So whenever you went to upload it in Basecamp or literally anything else in the web, Google, Dropbox, or whatever, you would run into a problem. It would either not upload or it would look like it uploaded and then never download. It was just a mess all the way around. And it's not like any of us at Basecamp can call up Apple and be like, hey, by the way, your new thing just broke everything for everybody. Congrats! But at the same token, we sat there and said, all right, if you have a Pages file that's going to upload and then you might not be able to get it back down the road, that's a major problem. I mean, that's something where we should at least have a warning or something. So that's what we did. We built a little thing where when you added that file into a project, we'd be like, hey, wait a second, just to let you know, this might not work, yada, yada, that kind of thing. And then, like Jeff mentioned, like sometimes they just, whatever company gets its act together and fixes it down the road, and that's what Apple did in this case too. So, yeah, sometimes you're stuck on things. Chase, have you ever had anything like that with Jetpack, and how did you handle it if you did?
Yeah, we do run into, especially browser-specific issues and/or with Jetpack even host-specific issues when they, block certain files that we need access to that prevent good Jetpack connections and that kind of thing. So, yeah, a lot of time, and we also try to maintain a pretty extensive list of other WordPress plugins that conflict with Jetpack for one reason or the other, either that duplicate functionality in a weird way, or just take over and really screw things up. So we also maintain that list. So in that case, I'm not sure that there's necessarily anything we could do in Jetpack to fix those issues. It's just that we have to let our users know if they are using one of those conflicting plugins that they may see problems, and if so, either disable the functionality in that other plugin and/or Jetpack, or choose which plugin they need more. I mean, there's a few options there for users. So, but in general, even when those come up and when we get emails about those, you kind of just have to deal with them on a case-by-case basis. It's not something that we can, give a blanket suggestion for all users, because sometimes, depending on the situation, it doesn't apply necessarily, and so we have to evaluate what's going on each time we hear from a user about it.
Yeah, I was just in here thinking how nice it is that they don't have to deal with plugins or anything like that with Basecamp, and then I realized, well, wait a second, browser extensions are the same thing. Like, I've got the list of browser extensions that cause things to go absolutely crazy when you use them on certain pages. So, we didn't dodge a bullet there either. Yay. All right, that's all the big questions I had from my end. Y'all got anything you want to throw in, last minute thoughts or anything before we move on?
Yeah, so I think that one thing that's kind of hard, but is like very necessary for this discussion, is how you balance fixing this stuff against feature requests or against like new features, right? So like work that the company has decided will help push the business forward, especially if you're earlier on and you're trying to get to that product market fit. Like I think it's very natural as a support person for me when I'm doing this support to get very very focused on this customer. This customer is having a real problem where it takes them like 3 clicks to get this done. That is obviously not perfect. We really should fix this, right? And I'm very, very focused in. Somebody else comes in and says like, well, or we could do this new. We have to balance it against this new feature that could potentially drive $100 worth of value for this. This customer has said that would make the product $100 more valuable to them per month, right? And I think that there's just more. I think there's a little bit more to the conversation than just like, oh, this thing doesn't work, we should fix it, in terms of achieving like long-term business goals. That fixing all the bugs doesn't mean perfection. It just means fewer bugs. And I'm not sure like exactly how to advocate for that, but I think as an organization, what we're trying to do is make support people. We don't want support people to have to run interference for things that don't work. We should make active decisions about what we're going to fix and what we're not going to fix, and then give them the confidence to say, I'm not like the messenger, right? So I don't feel this like anxiety about saying we're not going to fix this thing, and then have to worry about you like putting blowback on me, right? So we're not assigning to the support team like, okay, it's your job to make everybody happy with the tough trade-offs that we've made. Instead, it's just really important to have those things listed so that they can go forward with confidence and say like, totally get that you experienced this bug. Like, we're not that happy about it either, but we did investigate it. We don't think it's something that we're going to be able to fix right at the moment. And that's just how it is. And like, you may end up choosing not to sign up or not to be a customer because of that, but that's a decision we've made as a company. And it's not my job to sugarcoat it. It's my job to just tell you how it is honestly, and then let you decide what to do with that information.
Yeah, Dana, you just hired on a new person the other day, so still a small support team and everything else. How do you, as the customer lead, instill that kind of confidence in the rest of your team members so they don't feel like, oh, this is just going to come back and I'm going to get the blowback and have to defend something that I don't really like?
Well, as a company, we're pretty transparent, so we never hesitate to just tell a customer, this isn't something that's a priority for us right now, or to have that conversation of, honestly, we're not going to fix this right now. Here's a workaround. Can we talk about how much of an issue this is for you? We would love to know, how much of an issue this bug is for you, or even how much of an issue it is for you that we don't have this feature. And we have those conversations all the time about, we can't do what this thing is that you need to do, be it that something doesn't work or that we just don't have a feature. I think as long as everyone comes in with that feeling of, it's not our job to make sure that everything's 100%. It's our job to have those open, honest conversations with our customers. When it comes right down to it, that's the reason why I don't get that pushback. When I say that something needs fixed, it's because I don't come and say that everything needs fixed. Our team kind of talks about how much pain the customers are in, because we have those conversations of how much does this hurt them, and we kind of make those priority decisions of, this needs fixed today, this needs fixed in a week, this can wait 6 months because they have a workaround and it's fine, and they're happy and they're not in pain from it. And as a company, also we kind of one thing they started doing was having a list of everyone's working on one feature, one internal task, and one bug all the time. And it's like 3 things, and we all talk about, what's that one bug that should be the next one that isn't urgent. It's not a drop everything. What's the next feature that gets worked on, and what's like an internal task of extending testing or something. And it's just like a whole, not just team, but company-wide discussion of how do we communicate that? How do we make those decisions? How do we keep a transparent discussion between everyone on the team and everyone with our customers? So I found as long as you're honest and you just kind of say, this one's really tough. It's going to take us a while to figure out a solution for it. How can I help you work around it in the meantime? People are pretty happy. I've yet to have someone say, you know what, no, we're just going to quit your software because you can't fix this bug yesterday. In fact, even when we come to them with the browser ones, they're generally like, oh, okay, I'll use Chrome. It's fine.
Making the world a better place, one browser at a time. Yeah, I think, Jeff, we were kind of the same thing. So the story that I like to use with this is, so Basecamp is all about collaborating around a project, right? Which means you're writing a lot of stuff. And with Basecamp, the text editor that we have in there is a third-party one that it was one of those, it probably sounded great in theory, where you can just go in and be like, oh, text editors are complex. This is going to save us time. This is going to save us money. This is going to let us work on other features and that kind of thing. So we pulled it off the shelf and plugged it in, and then it was just bug after bug after bug. And not only are we're getting these bugs in from customers, and we can't really fix them because we're limited by what the text editors team is able to do. So it was a really tough situation where we had to tell our customers, look, this isn't the greatest writing experience. We know that. You know that. There are going to be bugs in it, but at the moment we can't invest, a couple of people for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months to build one from ground up. So that was a really tough thing for us to have to sit back and say, look, we just don't have the resources. We don't have the money. We don't, and it, in your case where you were talking about, this person said it would add $100 worth of value. Think about a better writing experience inside of your project app. That's, it's going to add a shit ton of value to it. It was just something we couldn't do. So I think for us, being able to be really honest with our customers and say, it sucks, we know it sucks. We're hoping down the road that we can get some fixes, but for right now, it kind of is what it is. That helped me at least have the confidence to tell that to a customer and not worry about, oh no, they're going to up and leave us because I did something wrong or anything like that. That's the biggest one I can think of. Livingston, you got any situations like that?
I guess we're in some cases maybe a little bit different since, especially with Jetpack, it's free. So a lot of people don't even expect support and that kind of thing for a free plugin. So when they find out that we do offer support and we actually care about what they're doing, they're pretty surprised. And so I think even with that, maybe some not everybody, but some users give us a little more leeway with getting things fixed and that kind of thing because they don't have, I guess, money invested in the product. Like maybe with some of the other products they're using, they expect something because they paid something. With Jetpack, it's a little bit different. So I think in some cases that works to our advantage as well. The users are more willing maybe to wait a little while on a bug that's just not a priority. And on the flip side of that, they're super happy and impressed when we get something fixed really quickly that maybe wasn't super major to them, but they're just excited to see that we're responsive and listening to what they have to say and fixing issues or complaints that they've reported to us.
Yeah, makes sense. Jeff, was that kind of where you were aiming?
I think that it's just important to talk about. It's important to realize that when you're providing a lot of support, when you're doing that day in day out, you were hired because you have that strong empathy for the customer, that strong connection for the customer. You tend to get increasingly very your focus narrows on what are the customers experiencing, what are they telling me, and that is just by definition going to be a little bit more of the, hey, in Safari I like click this thing and two tabs open instead of one, and that's like a big deal. Versus the little bit more vague, like I need general help with marketing, right? They're unlikely to say that, but yet that's where the hundreds of thousands of dollars, the millions of the total future business is at. I think that any business like has to balance those two things, unless they feel like they're super complete already and they're just keeping things they're cleaning things up. And so giving empowerment on both sides of that equation to say, this is not a bug we're ready to fix, even though we know how to fix it, because we're prioritizing these other features, versus I now know, like on the support side, I now know what is priority and what is not, and I can raise issues that also line up with what our priorities are. Like then both sides can be really happy, and neither side is really treated as a second-class citizen, which I think is very important.
Yeah, and that middle ground is like you said, so very important, because you don't want, somebody up in the ivory tower handing down and saying, we shall fix this bug and we shall not fix that bug, and that kind of thing. But you don't want the flip side of that being where there's this big lengthy bug process that a support person would have to go through before they can even like let the ivory tower know that something's going on. It's got to be a good, open and honest and transparent communication between both sides, the programmers and developers, along with the customer interacting people, that these are the things that are priorities, these are the things that are not, and here's why. I think the why is really important, because with the why, you can always go back to a customer and tell them this is why we're choosing not to fix this, versus, well, we're not going to fix it and the guy in the ivory tower told me not to, so yeah.
Yeah, and there's the third scary case, which is you fix every bug, which as a support person makes you feel like then no one will leave. Because that's why people leave, right? It's because there are bugs. And then people are still leaving because there's another app that has a couple bugs in it, but it also pushed out some like really big, really valuable features that really add to makes it easier for that other person to do their job. They're like, wow, your app really works, but it only saves me like 10 minutes. And this other one, which has a couple bugs in it, could save me like 2 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one, even though you guys just did just a great job. And you have to keep that in mind, I guess.
Not to mention, fixing a bug will probably create another bug eventually.
It's true.
It's the never-ending bug cycle. That's how it goes.
That's why we work on the web.
All right, so let us know what you think, how you handle bugs, how you handle the ones that are going to fix, aren't going to get fixed, and most importantly, how do you communicate that to your customers?
Also let us know how good Chase's haircut looks, because it looks good.
Isn't it great?
Real good.
See, this is when I go and get a haircut last week. It looks just good. It works out. Although I was joking with Dana earlier, this room that I'm in. So for those of you that don't know, my wife and I are going to have a kid come Christmas. Woo! And yeah, it's exciting. Fast finger Jeff. Yay. Anyway, I got kicked out of my office because it's become the nursery. So I'm in this room, which is the guest room, and it's one room in our 1959 house that we haven't touched yet. So the background is rough. There's random like piles of clothes everywhere, but at least my hair looks good. That's a plus.
What is that? What room is that going to be?
This will be the office / guest room now. So eventually I'll have a nice coat of paint back there, and it'll look kind of better, I hope.
And you'll get like a laundry basket.
And a laundry basket. I really need a laundry basket. I feel like as a soon-to-be parent, you should have these things, but oh well.
No, you need to just give up now. It's just going to get worse later on.
Oh, all right. So, yeah, that's the story with my hair in this room. Let us know what you think about any of that. supportops.co/contact, or hit us up on Twitter. It's @supportops there. That brings us to my favorite part of each and every Monday. What was that?
Whoops.
I have no idea which one's which. I'm so out of practice. How about this one?
It's this week's shout-outs. These are the things that are making us... I can't. You know what they are. We're just going to move into them because that was the best thing that's happened all day. Chase, what's your shout-out this week?
So I'm going to shout out a new iPhone, iOS email app I've been trying called Spark. It's by the folks at, I think you pronounce it Readle. They do a couple other neat little apps. So, yeah, I've been trying it out. iOS email is something that I'm not sure there's ever been a really great solution out there. So I'm giving this one a try, and it's got some pretty cool features so far. So, and it's free, so might as well check it out if you're looking for something or just want to check it out.
It's free, which means it has no bugs whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that, but we'll see.
Diana, what's your shout-out for this week?
My shout-out is for my absolute favorite conference, which is called Write the Docs. The U.S. edition in Portland happened last month, so no one can go to it now. But the European edition in Prague is in September. So if anyone wants to go to Prague, they're still selling tickets. But the Portland edition, all of the conference talks are streaming online for free. So that's why I want to shout it out, because anyone can go and view any of the last 3 years worth of conference talks online. Check them out. It's really cool. Not only is it like documentation writing, but they also talk about user experience, even like some support type topics, and it's really just cool and awesome.
I cannot believe we haven't shouted that conference out yet, because it's absolutely fantastic. You should definitely go to it. Even if it's in Prague, it's worth the expense.
Prague is really affordable.
See? There you go. Jeff, what's your shout-out?
I am shouting out, I think it's called Letterspace.
Can you say it one more time?
It is a note-taking app that apparently actually works. I've had my ongoing battle with Evernote for a really long time, and what I've decided is that, you know those times in the past where you would have tried to write like a random note that was good for a little while, but it wasn't good for long term? So a classic example is I went to go look at a house that's for sale with a friend today, and I wanted to take notes on that house, right? Like things that I saw, things that we might want to bring up with the realtor, that kind of thing. If I used Evernote for that, it would just turn into a cluttered mess, Evernote, very quickly, right? They have tagging and all this stuff, but still, like, all the views and different ways that you look at your notes in Evernote just get really cluttered really fast. It's got to be very concentrated. So I found Letterspace, which, like Evernote, syncs it from iOS to your laptop just fine, as long as you use a Mac, which of course you do. And the other great thing, two great things that they have, one you can write in Markdown, or three good things. One, you can write in Markdown, which I don't know what Evernote is thinking, but they don't support Markdown. Second, you can archive notes. So, for example, once I shared those thoughts about that house with the realtor, I archived that note, and I never need to think about it again. And the third is you can add, what are they called, hashtags to a note. And they're just like tags, except they're way lighter weight than the way that Evernote does tags. So I'm shouting out Letterspace. It's super free on both of those platforms, so I'd get it immediately.
You're showing your age there with what's that thing they call hashtags? Is that what the youngsters are using these days?
Yeah.
Hashtag.
Exactly.
Oh, my shout out this week, short and simple. I don't think I've said it before. If I have, I just downloaded it again, so you're going to get it again. The long form app. It's one of those where today's Monday. Yeah, so yesterday I was looking for some stuff to read, just kind of like with breakfast, having a cup of coffee and all that, and long form was really great. It's got a staff curated section, so you can go through and kind of pick out what their staff thinks are some of the best. There's a popular section, which I guess is fine. You know, it's the whims of the masses, and as we look down from our ivory tower, we, the plebes down there, we don't always trust their can you tell I watched Lord of the Rings this weekend? Can you tell? Anyway, popular section is pretty good. So definitely recommend it if you're looking for some more long-form article kind of things. And then you can tweet it out and hashtag it and let people like Jeff know what you're reading and all that fun stuff. So that's my shout-out. We'll have that and all the other show notes up shortly at supportops.co. Next week, again, Carolyn's still out, so I've got another special guest for you. It's going to be a surprise, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So make sure to tune in. Same time, same place, next Monday, and until we see you then, have Have an awesome week.